You're listening to
The Dice Men Cometh.
Proudly sponsored by LFG Australia.
lfg-oz.com.au.
Or you could visit their store in Canberra. It's in the ACT.
For all your board gaming needs.
And now, on with the show.
The Dice Man cometh!
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. This is indeed the Dice Men Cometh for episode 358. No, not the Winchester rifle from the 50s, although we do have somebody on the show that was around when that was invented, I'm sure. And this podcast is the numero uno, or numero dos, podcast in Australia about board gaming, tabletop stuff, depending on the week, where we're going to talk about everything board gaming on you can play on a table, in a table, around a table, or anything to talk like that. I am Leon. I haven't been here very often, hence why I'm just tripping over my words. And over there is Mr. Garthy Boy.
Hello.
And over there is Mr. Marky Boy.
I was just about to say, Garth, who's this guy?
I don't know.
I don't get on to these normal episodes that much because I'm normally sick or dealing with small children or dealing with small sick children. But I am Dice Man Leon. Anybody out there that is a member of our Patreon, you know that thing we do where only cost a little bit every month and you get the best episodes we've ever done ever. Plug, 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 plug. I've never missed one of those. Would never dare to miss one of those. But yes, haven't been on a normal one in quite some time. But
Why do you keep using normal in inverted commas?
Well, you know, I like to be a man of the people. But since I haven't been on in a while, I'm not going to, mess up the formula too much with you guys. I'm going to hit some of the Leon classics.
You have a formula?
I'm going to hit some of the Leon classics, some things like, hey guys, I bought a new game, or hey guys, I sold a new game.
Well, hey.
Or the infinite classics, hey guys, my back, oh god, my back, my back, my back.
Isn't it like all those things happen in the same day?
Yes. I sold a game and bought a game, and because I was transporting the games, it threw my back out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a very much when it rains it pours kind of geezer. And so we're going to talk a little bit about BorderCon. We may have mentioned it once before. Do you guys ever talk about BorderCon on the show? I don't think you do.
Maybe as much as PAX.
What?
Have you been to PAX?
No, I haven't. It's a thing I've never heard of. We're probably going to talk quite a bit about BorderCon on this episode, but it's nice to be back in a room with you lads because it's been about a week and a half, and since I saw you last time you saw me, I had a beard. I don't have a beard anymore.
Oh, I never even noticed.
And I almost did a die about 9 days ago.
Oh, here we go.
And wound up in the emergency room at 3 a.m, thinking I was going to choke to death. But here I am, happy as Larry, ready to talk about cardboard on tables and stuff.
You know what I've always wondered?
Yeah.
How happy is Larry?
I don't know. Although the painkillers they had on, I probably could have asked him, because he could have been the shiny thing next to me that I was talking to, which was probably an IV drip or a lamp. Hard to say.
But it was that's a burning question, and also, how hot is buggery?
I'll leave that to you to discover, Mark.
Look, before we continue, we must say a very special thanks, as usual, to our very, very generous sponsor, Charles from LFG Australia. No. LFG-oz.com.au. I noticed that I think they've got a big second-hand thing happening. They had a ladies' game night. Charles is doing an amazing job up there in Canberra. But, of course, you can hit him up online for all the great games, as I did recently when I got Wingspan Oceania. I tell you what, my wife, she loves it.
I bet she does.
And she liked that card game as well. Anyway, before we go on too much, because we've got a lot to cover on this episode, but specifically BorderCon, and BorderCon, we'll take a quick break, if that's okay with you, Master of Ceremonies Leon.
I mean, I suppose we can make a thing of having a break after a few minutes of chat. That is fine by me.
And then we'll come back and we'll talk all about BorderCon with the Dice Men Cometh.
The Dice Man cometh!
I'm Lee Perrott. I'm a new board game designer, and my tip to any other designers is get the Dice Men to play your game. They have amazing feedback. It's so useful. Except for what Leon said.
The Dice Man cometh!
All right, we are back to talk about our amazing BorderCon experience. And at least, guys, this time, Leon didn't sleep in, not have his alarm go off and make us almost miss the plane. Remember that one, Garth?
Yeah, that was so
That was
funny.
last year. I mean, things went so smoothly this year, Leon, didn't they?
I got my wife to early in the morning to give me a cheeky little lift to your place, Mark, and then you and your lovely partner were going to go pick up Garth and take us to the airport, and that was all well and good, except for when my wife dropped us off at your place, then she was driving my car, it then didn't start. And then didn't start for 2 days.
Makes it hard to drive. How did you drive home?
What we did is we got a friend of ours who's a grown-up, who knows things about cars, and apparently when I put in my new battery several months ago, he told me, although he is the nicest guy I know, "Nah, mate, you put it in perfectly fine. Nah, mate, she's fine, mate. But basically what I did was, I undid what you did it back up, and she was fine again.
There you go. But he took out the double A's that you'd installed.
Yeah.
Put in the car battery. Is that right?
Yeah, no, I got one of those big square ones you used to put in the torches back in the day. I thought, that's right, strap 4 of them together, it's about the same size. And yeah, so that was the start of our BorderCon funsies.
Yeah, can I ask that we don't make this a tradition? I mean, it's 2 years on a row that Leon has tried his darndest to make sure we don't get on the plane.
Did you not want to go?
BorderCon.
No, I was really looking forward to it.
Yeah, you looked like you were really looking forward to it when we're sitting in the airport after the relaxing morning you'd had.
Oh yeah, I was not stressed at all. With my wife.
Anyway, let's move on. We had I was going to say a nice cup of coffee, but we had a cup of coffee.
We did.
At the airport. We got on a little plane. We all put our headphones in, didn't speak to each other for an hour. Next thing you know, we're in Melbourne.
Yeah.
How about that? And then we went, picked up our little hire car. Thank you very much,
little.
Garth, for organising that. And a drive off.
Had an operation, which he is going through with flying colours. Thank you very much for that, Leah. It's good to hear. Good to hear you're recovering well. And she said, just come along, we'll give you a feed. And we said, you don't have to do that, you don't have to feed us. And she said, I'll just throw in a slow roasted brisket into the slow cooker. And we went, we'll have portions, please, double portions, triple portions, thank you very much. And yes, so we stopped off to see her and her mother, and it was lovely times had by all the chatting and the lovely eating of the brisket on a cold afternoon. And then we jumped back in the kickety car, and we talked for 2 hours about the word cattle. And cows, and me counting cattle, and it was,
heifers,
and heifers. Ask us about it sometime; it's hilarious. And then
maybe we should do a podcast about cattle.
We also, I will point out, I think we took more right-angle turns than I've ever taken in my life, because literally where we went, if you like, was on a diagonal from Numurkah to Albury-Wodonga, but they're all paddocks out there. And so you basically just got to drive along the edge of each paddock and then turn left or right along the top or bottom of the next paddock. And we literally did 20 turns like that. It wasn't a straight line.
No, it was as the crow flies. It's just this crow was a big fan of Tetris, you see. So he was doing lots of little L turns and hooks and little
It's like being in the snake from the Nokia.
But we got there in the end.
We did.
To Albury-Wodonga.
At 5 o'clock. After getting on a plane at 9, we finally got to our destination.
And look, the exciting thing was, I remember, we got there just as they were about to do all the hard work to set up. So we decided we should go and check out our hotel for a while and unpack our bags and settle in, because that looked like hard work.
Exactly.
They did an amazing job, though, the BorderCon.
They did, and we didn't want to cramp their style.
Yeah.
No, so we went to the commercial club because we're classy, and we met a couple of Queenslanders there, the old rivals that we see every year, and we were looking forward to it. And we sat down for them, had a few brewskis, I don't mind telling you. Save me repeating that later on, because we did that every day, most hours. And yeah, we sat down with them. We had a cheeky feed, and we also had a cheeky couple of card games too. And the lovely waitress that served us was convinced that we were in the poker tournament that was happening later that night. And we were just like, oh no, different kind of card games for us, love.
Yes.
Those up there, they're scary grown-up folk that play with real people money.
Well, we also played the role of travel agent because
yes.
she was looking to move to Tasmania.
Yes.
So we advised her to not move to Zeehan and maybe try Hobart instead.
Yes.
Yep. And
idea.
we played, I was going to say, the first game we're going to mention, we played a game which I'd never even heard of before. AOS, the king of tiny card games that are incredibly fun and entertaining, whipped out
Again.
something special.
Hopefully.
Called Stickeln, or apparently the English version is called Stickum. And proceeded to play that for maybe an hour or so with about 6 of us, I think.
Yeah, I played it for about 10 minutes. My back was hurting, A, and B, did I mention it? And B, didn't really understand how the game worked, so I left. and went back to BorderCon to see how everything was going with the setup. I kindly went, "Oh, good job," and went to the other room and started playing games with people. And I played a little game called, a trick-taking game called 10 that I really enjoyed that you might hear about at some point later. And then these clowns turned up and we decided to play...
Hang on.
Yeah.
Just one thing about Stickum.
Yeah.
Who won the very first game of BorderCon? The very first game.
It's not a real game.
It was
a tiny game.
It was a
Doesn't really count.
It was, look, we'll
And
probably say
I wasn't there.
probably say it was the game of BorderCon.
And then the next game we played, a bit of a hotness, bit of an award nominee. Next station, next stop,
Next station, London.
next stop, London. I'm calling it from now on.
Oh yeah, Aussie Matt Dunstan, nominee for the Spiel des Jahres this year.
And well, arguably your game of the con, I'd reckon, Leon.
Oh, I would say so. It's one of those, something and right games that we're massive fans on here in the Dice Men Cometh. We played this game, and I tell you what, the painkillers were doing the job that day because I didn't understand the rules to this one either.
No, for some reason you thought it had nothing to do with trains or pencils.
I don't know. I just started drawing lines all over the shop and just kind of, I wrote some.
Except on those dotted lines.
I wrote some profanity on there.
Have I won yet?
Yeah. But apparently that it didn't. Apparently Garth won the first collective game of BorderCon that we played.
And then what I remember most is we were all set for a big night. We had our friends there. We had games, and then the BorderCon staff came and said, "Hang on, BorderCon's tomorrow. Get out,
Go to bed.
Yeah.
you louts." And we were like, "No way, gaming's just started.
Yeah.
Hey, you friends of the Dice Men, come back to our hotel room." And then we took some friends back to our hotel room.
Where someone had conveniently left a 1 litre bottle of Captain Morgan rum and some colas. I don't know how that happened, but what the service there.
Jeez,
Amazing.
they were good people whoever did that in our hotel room.
Clever stuff.
They were. So then we had a few games of Fuji Flush by Freedom and Freeze, and one of our all-time favourites, as Mike from Board Game Barbecue would say, Bellati.
Not Bellarati.
Bellati.
Bellarati, great game. And I've finally found a copy and it's on its way to Tasmania.
Hooray!
Fantastic.
One of
It is
those
the
games-
German version, but it really needs
Yeah.
no rules.
I think I got the Spanish version from like 3 or 4 BorderCons ago. It's one of those games that we've talked about this several times, and that nearly everyone should have this game in their collection, but a lot of people have never even heard of it, which is just an absolute shame.
Anyway, we've got a lot of BorderCon still to talk about. So Friday morning,
Yeah.
we had a date. We had a date with Evolution and with our friend Norkel, who was planning to teach us Darwin's Journey, which was the first of the big, if you like, games that we'd committed to. We did commit to a bit more this BorderCon than last as far as bigger games go.
Well, I certainly think you two did.
Oh, yes.
I had organised one game, which ultimately ended up happening on Monday morning.
Yeah.
I was not roped into this. I was asked to join this one, and I was very, very happy to play it. But yeah, Darwin's Journey, no doubt we will talk about that in
I
the
think
future.
so.
But after that, we continued down the really heavy path of Darwin's Journey by going into Challenges,
Yes.
which is a Kenner Spiel
Kenner Spiel
nominated game, which when we talk about it, you'll find out it's not really that complex.
No. When like a 6-year-old could play it, I don't think so.
Well, a 6-year-old who opens the box and then lets the game play.
Anyway, that just sort of led right into a massive gaming day of gaming on Friday. We played the Camel Up card game. We played some trick-taking games with our friend Craig Summerton, including a design of his Mesozoic Mayhem
Great little game.
about dinosaurs. Then
First Contact.
First Contact.
Egyptian code names, which was a belt and fun.
That was really cool. I was surprised I hadn't heard of it before. But that's kind of like code names for humans v gods.
Yeah.
Or humans with gods.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I don't know. I
There was another one. I mean, they're all coming back to me now. There was another one called The Number. There was one called My Favourite Things. Then some people, not me at that stage, I don't think, played Texas Showdown.
That was me. I was off doing something else.
yes.
And then we went for a 16-person curry, as is our wont on the Friday of BorderCon, and it was good.
But was it 16-person or was it 14-person curry?
No, it was 16. It's just you two are morons and don't understand how things work.
I seem to think we put in an order for a shared banquet.
Yeah, you just
as
didn't get
did
it.
a couple of other people, and then one shared banquet for 2 people turned up. when the 4 people who were getting banquet meals said,
Is that
"Is that all
everything?
there is? Please, sir, can I have some more?" They said, "No, that's your banquet. Shut up and eat it," or some words to that effect. And then we were like, "Okay." And then we went to pay on the way out, and there were not enough banquets to pay for because it turns out there was only one 2-person banquet.
So it was good.
But the food was
absolutely.
great.
However,
At my end of the table, everything went swimmingly.
Oh, let me guess. You had an extra banquet?
No, we didn't. We just had everything we ordered correctly, and it was lovely. Yum,
What?
yum, 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 yum.
Anyway,
it's nice
then
to be
we-
near the person who actually organised it and therefore has to take full responsibility.
Yeah.
when we went back, Leon,
Yeah.
you and I donned our best chiffon gown
Oh, yes, we did indeed.
and went straight back to Regency days with our great friend and Patreon supporter, James.
And Jess.
No, Jess didn't play.
That's right. She did not.
You're
Sorry.
thinking of Liz, which
Yes,
rhymes
sorry,
with
yes.
Jess. That's where we met the lovely Liz.
Yes.
And we played Obsession.
Oh,
that
yes, we
game
did.
of
Yes, we did.
manor renovating and courting in Regency times with lots of lovely voices for ladies.
Yes, Mr. Darcy had a rollicking good time that
It
night.
was a lot of fun. I
And
did
then
enjoy it.
behind us, Garth was playing the most testosterone-filled testosterone game in all of testosterone.
Oh, yeah.
A little game that he's been after for ages, but just refuses to buy it because he's just that kind of person. A little game called Heat, Garth.
Yeah, it is arguably the hottest game around at the moment.
Hotter than Jason Statham's scrotum.
Sure.
Depends
So, you
what Jason Statham's doing, I suppose.
Exactly. But yeah, I managed to play
tight
Heat, and that was excellent. Or was it? I don't know. We'll talk about it later, maybe.
And then we finished the night with not one, but 2 of the all-time best convention/party games in the history of ever. We played a bit of Just One. A few more people turned up to the table, and then we played a bit of Time's Up /Monikers/ just hilarity prevails.
Yeah, that's right. That's where we learned about that space documentary.
Oh, that documentary is a classic. The documentary known only as Expanse.
The Expanse, the space documentary, was an amazing story.
But look, I mean, what makes this version of Time's Up special is the fact that it is choose your own Time's Up. You know, essentially, the cards are blank. You get a pencil and some cards, and you just got to write stuff that you think everyone will know about. So, you have the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, and you have Taylor Swift, and you have Donald Trump, and you have all of these things that hopefully are there to just basically mean that everyone knows what's going on and has a great time. And
Yeah.
I don't think it ever fails to deliver.
No.
It certainly has sliding scales of hilarity.
Not to mention when you have things like The Dark Knight and his awesome soundtrack of dun 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 dun. Yes,
But it
well
gave,
done
it
there.
gave the gloomy effects. Anyway, look, we've only covered Friday. There's still 2.5 more days to go. And Saturday, look, Saturday was the biggest day of all.
Saturday was a bit redonkulous.
Where we, Leon and I, we both had an appointment early. Myself, on the advice of the team of Board Game Barbecue, I signed up for a game of John Company 2nd Edition, which I sat down to at 9:30 a.m. on Saturday, and I stood up from at 5:30 p.m. on Saturday. And let's not talk about that anymore, although it might come up in later conversation. And Leon,
Yes, so I was playing War Room 2nd Edition, which is the entire Second World War in one board game. And very similar to Mark, I sat down at about 9 o'clock, fresh-faced in the morning, and then got up at a little bit earlier than you, actually, at about 4 in the afternoon. That's only because by that point, we'd had 3 rounds and just decided to call it because we knew we literally wouldn't get this game finished before Sunday afternoon. But again, we will talk about that later. But what was Garthy Boy doing during this whole time?
Well, I decided not to go crazy, so I built some highways in Germany, Eastern Germany and Western Germany, in the game Autobahn.
Yeah.
I then sat down with designer of Unfair and Funfair, Joel Finch, who was there, Eris, who was also there, Erin, and who else was there? I was one of the Johns from Queensland and played Unearth. Then, around about this time, there was a bit of an odour in the air. It smelt like some cooking on some form of Australian outdoor cooking implement because, lo and behold, the first ever Board Game Barbecue attendee arrived because Mike showed up, fresh-faced as a daisy, straight off the plane where he'd returned from Bali, straight to BorderCon because that's the kind of hardcore gamer he is.
Can you believe they let that kind of riffraff in here now?
Yeah.
After nearly 10 years we've been doing this show, they've finally let that kind of folk in there. Ridiculous.
I am very, very, very glad that they did because Mike is a lovely bloke,
Yes.
as are the Board Game Barbecue team. But we sat down and then just started a nice, relaxing game of Junkart, which is always fun.
Yes.
Like, Junkart is just such a great, easy game to play. Obviously, it was the wooden version, which is really nice.
Lovely.
And look, it was just great to catch up with him because, Mark, you and I hadn't caught him. When was the last time we saw him?
I think it was PAX.
Oh, PAX.
Moving
Leon.
on, moving
Remember that,
on,
Leon?
moving on. And by this time, Mark and myself had finished up our games and we come over to join you. This is the first time I had met said barbecuer. And straight away I was just like, yes, we're going to get on like a house on fire. What a shock. And we sat down for a game called Give Me That. Or
Gimme That.
Gimme That. Or The Potato Game, as most people would call it. Or, as everyone else in that entire giant board game room called it for half an hour, what the hell are they doing up there? I want to kill all those people at that
Correct.
table.
And if we were on the Patreon episode where we do say the swears, it wouldn't be what the hell are those people doing.
Oh, no.
It'd be some more colourful language. But this game, considering that all you're doing is filling out from 1 to 100,
Yeah, on a bit of paper.
It's like a write and write.
it's quite fun.
Yeah, except there's one die and you roll it and things happen as well that are potato based. But anyway, moving on.
It's totally potato based. Of course it is. After that, we then went into Heckmech and changed from potatoes to worms. And that was a bit of exciting dice rolling worm collection before we went, Mark, you and I, into Hamster Roll. Now, as the name suggests, there's a cylindrical sort of central
wheel,
piece.
like a hamster
wheel,
wheel.
hamster
Some might
wheel.
call it, yeah.
And you're putting pieces on there, so it's kind of like Jenga in a hamster wheel,
Yep.
kind of like a Junkardy type of stacking on things. So that was quite interesting. We had a great time.
It reminds me most of that meme of the person riding a bike who sticks the stick in their
yes.
own spokes. It's like that.
Yes.
But fun.
Yes, and while you lads were doing that, I played the opening scenario in a game that I have at home that I've been meaning to learn and teach myself. It is the pop-up escape room game, The Shivers. I played the first opening scenario of that. You'll be hearing about that sometime in the coming future, I can tell you that's for sure. And also, after that, got to play a little game called Top 10 that we're going to be talking about a little bit later in the episode. And then we went to have another massive 16-person dinner because we're very, very popular, you see. And this time, everything went a bit more swimmingly.
We got food. that
Yes, we
paid
got
for.
food
Yes.
that time.
That's nice.
And then, yes, once we finished that lovely dinner and went back upstairs, was it luchador time?
Yes.
As it is every year, when myself and my good friend Renee, and then joined by our newcomer in our trios team this year by the name of Beck, against the evil Queenslanders, who for the last several years have had their own referee, who's now a part of their luchador team. If that doesn't spell chaos, I don't know what does. And statistically, you'd think we would win after about doing this for about 7 years. But no, we're lost yet again because the story just keeps on rolling and it just will refuse to end.
And then, what, party games?
Party games,
Lots
party
of party games. We hung out with Mike until very, very early into the morning.
I
Played
did
lots of
play.
different
I
party
did play a
games.
lot of Ricochet Robots, which I hate.
Yes.
and I wouldn't say I played it as much as I was determined to not just give up.
Yeah, another game that may come up in discussion later, which was called Auf Teufel komm raus, which apparently a very, very, very loose translation is the devil's butthole. But then we being good little boys, we went to bed. It was probably only 2:30 at that stage.
Yep.
Relatively early night for us because we had to get up early on Sunday because someone, I can't remember who, was being Dutch.
Yes, and it was not my wife, it was me.
Yeah.
I had a little game set up of Amsterdam that I was looking forward to. And behind me, you lads were playing a game that you were supposed to play last year, but you didn't. But now you did, called Sidereal Confluence.
Oh, we did a big 6-player game taught to us by Ben and Jenny of the CanCon Game Library fame, the new runners of CanCon Game Library. That was a cracker. I'm sure we'll talk more about that later. Then we sat down with designer Lee Perrott to play his game, Grimwald. We basically redesigned it in about 5 minutes for him.
Along with our good friend Alan Cheshire, also a designer, the Kingdom of Air designer,
Yes.
and yes, we basically completely redesigned his game right in front of his eyes. But those two next to each other in the chitty chat they have, you can tell there's something special brewing in the Australian game designing world.
Yes.
There's a lot of good young minds out there, and there's good fresh stuff coming.
There's a lot to be said for a game that's based on Victory Pants.
Yes,
That's all I can say.
That's right.
absolutely.
Then we met some more new friends. We played a little card game about witches. Was it called Covens and Cats or something a bit like that?
Something to that effect.
And then, because time got on, we started to get into the party games again.
No, we didn't.
No, you're missing out a massive
we had
Oh,
the
sorry.
most important
Oh,
board game of the whole
Oh,
weekend.
yeah, no, it's just Ron. We'll just skip past that, can't we?
No.
you're not.
So our BorderCon winner, as well as getting to play a game with us, gets to choose the game that we play, and Ron had chosen Sagrada. So we got to play, the three of us, with Ron and his partner, and had a wonderful and very successful game of Sagrada for some of us.
Oh, dear.
Yeah, was it? Did I win that?
No,
Who
we
win that?
really didn't.
No, Leon did. Garth did, of course. That's why he's saying it, Leon.
I must have come second then because I was smashing it there for a while.
But then
anywho-
you started putting dice in there that were illegal. and you had 3 empty holes because
that's
you
very
pretended
true.
to put stuff in there.
But
We had a
Ron-
really great time.
Ron was as the proper board game of the years. He took all the different good bits from all the different expansions that he had to make one awesome 5-player game, sorry, and it was awesome. This
Yeah.
game that when it came out a few years ago, I thought this is fine, was great fun.
Yeah, but after that,
Yeah.
then oh boy did we play a game.
Oh, yeah.
Apparently, it was called Hand to Hand Wombat, and that was where we stopped.
Yep.
We then played another little game called Crossing, all about gems and pointing at them.
Mm-hmm.
We then tried again Texas Showdown, which some of us hadn't played previously,
Yep.
and that was
Great little
great.
game.
And then we just had a wonderful fun night of a little game that those eagle-eared listeners from previous podcasts would know, Top 10.
Yes, and by this time, my back, have I mentioned it, was playing up after the raffle we'd gone through in the afternoon, where we stood up and did all the cheering for all our friends winning all the games, and none of it because we didn't win anything this year.
Correct.
Which is redonkulous. I went back to the hotel room, chucked some more painkillers down my throat, and thought, I'm going to learn the big game we're playing tomorrow. The only game we're playing tomorrow, I'm going to learn it. Went onto YouTube. Becca Scott's got a video. Good on you, Becca. Got about 5 minutes into that and quite literally passed out, mobile phone in hand. I don't imagine it looked great when you guys come back to the hotel room, but that's
Leon asleep, half passed out with a Becca Scott video.
Yeah. So that was the thing that happened. But then Monday morning,
I was going to say, then, Garth, you and I stayed on and just partied on the only way you can when you're partying on with a top 10 party, because there ain't no party like a top 10 party. On and on and on into the night. It was hilarious. If you want to know more about top 10, listen to episode 357, because we do a review on it. But yeah, it was definitely one of the hits. Well, we may talk about it more, spoiler alert. And then Monday.
And Monday was basically watching Leon tell us to set up Frostpunk, and it'd all be really relaxing.
yeah, absolutely it was.
And then we played 2 turns of Frostpunk, decided that Leon should buy it, and then we left.
Yes, I don't recall one of those steps there, but sure. All the rest of it made perfect sense. Yes, this game that is very much up the Dice Men alley, but we're going to have to actually get a copy in little old Hobart before we talk about that
There
one
needs to
properly.
be something in this little island. But look, then we made our way home and flew home, and then just caught up on sleep for the last week. And now here we are again.
Well, I'd nearly died that night, but that's beside the point.
Yeah, you just love doing that.
Yeah, it's just my cup of tea. Had nothing to do with my back, I
I
can
think
tell
he's
you.
got to crush it on a nurse in the emergency ward, perhaps, because he
No,
just keeps ending up there.
Different hospital, thank you very much. Anywho, I'm alive and
nurses
well.
in general.
Thank you all for the messages, which I did have a few of. Thank you very much.
Well,
for your
that
kind
was
words.
a lightning round of our BorderCon journey. We're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, we're going to deep dive into some of our amazing experiences in a bit more detail to tell you about some of the games, some of the experiences, some of the fun, some of the craziness, some of the lowlights. Maybe there weren't any lowlights, but if they were, we might mention them. But for the moment, we're going to take a break, and you're listening to The Dice Men Cometh.
The Dice Man cometh!
Please note, the following is a paid advertisement and not a review.
Ba, 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 ba 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 ba. Ba 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 ba.
Doo-doo-doom, doom, doom, doo-doo-doo-doom.
Yes.
Oh, wonderful here.
Welcome back. How are you, Bull?
Oh, I'm going really well, thanks, Tony. But I'm a bit worried about these West Indies. They're not doing really well here, and I think they're going to have to buy a wicket if they keep going like this for much longer.
Well, I'm going to drop the accent because it's going to go down all kinds of bad. But have I got a thematic game for you that celebrates cricket in an abstract way without pushing away people who don't know the sport?
Oh, we don't want to do that.
No. This game, which is an Aussie-designed card game by Seabrook Studios, done by Ryan, is called 10 Wickets. Now, I know, Bill, that apart from pigeons, you are all about the art.
Oh, I'm all about the art. I'm all about the cards. I'm all about cricket. Everything about cricket.
This game features art of not your favourite players, because they are abstractions of players, but art of all different characters, all different qualities. You've got your openers, you've got your middle order, you've got your tail enders, and you've even got your all-rounder.
Oh, did you know I was a famous opener once?
Oh, really?
Yes, Garth,
That's
yes.
fantastic. So, look, the joy of this game is that, as you alluded to at the start, you might have to buy a wicket in this particular game. So the nature of it is the more you spend, the more you're helping your opponent by scoring. And the good thing is, this is a two-player game, which is exactly what cricket is.
Oh, yeah.
So you've got to be really economical with the number of runs that you're willing to give away, as well as really wanting to claim the wickets that you need to make sure that at the end of the game you have taken your
10 wickets.
That's right.
That's right. How's that?
I got him, yes. Oh my God, this just reminds so much of my childhood. So there is a really flexible bidding system that lets you bid up, lets you bid down. It lets you reshape your hand, and it gives you lots of agency over your game, the team that you're trying to amass, and ultimately the score that you're trying to get, which is going to be how you, Mark, came close to winning some games.
Well, that's right. You don't want to take one wicket. You want to take chew, and then another chew.
Oh, God. So, look, bidding up by a higher amount than you prefer to reduce the number of cards used can be a really good way to work. But also using good ball tokens. Now, everyone needs some good ball tokens from time to time, but using those and bidding high to reserve a card, knowing that it reduces your flexibility. So you've really got to make sure that you're using the available information, you're using those good ball tokens, which are just bidding by up or down by 10, because the game will end quite quickly.
Oh, what a good ball that was. Just about got him.
Well, those tail enders, they don't hold the fort as much as your middle order or your openers, that's for sure, is that right?
No, they don't stay around for long, that's for sure.
So look, you've really got to keep an eye on what your own team is doing and the wickets you're taking, but you've also got to keep a really strong eye on the opponent, because manoeuvring your opponent into being forced to take a wicket will free up a spot. Now, there's a bit of tableau building in this, because you can't have a team full of all-rounders. You can't have a team of opening batsmen, so you can only take a couple of different wickets of each category. So you can only take a couple of openers, because lo and behold, there's only two of them.
Only two openers.
Oh, that's perfect there, Richie or Bill or Tony, I'm not quite sure. But the good thing is you want to make sure that you've taken the full complement. So you want to have your openers, your middle orders, your all-rounders and your tail enders, because you get rewarded for the diversity of the sets that you've collected. So that's a really important part of making sure that your team ends up with the winning score.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
So the great thing is the natural quickening of the game as the lower cards are used makes accessible bids. They're removed from the game as well, which leaves you with only higher cards in the supply. And this means that you're going to be bidding more runs for those cards and makes your score go potentially cuckoo. Now, Mark, we've played several times and scores have been 200, 300. They've been just one-day scores. They've been 20-20 scores. They've been everywhere in between. So this is a game for people who love their cricket, but also for those who don't, because it's this two-way little sort of tussle between the good guys, me, the bad guys, you, all trying to get your 10 wickets.
Yes, it was marvellous. And the scores are well over 200, I think, Garth.
Wow, that's excellent. So look, I really encourage you to support this Kickstarter. It's going live on not the 22th of June, but the 20th of June, which is not too far away.
Oh, Garth, it's a Tuesday, the 20th, 20, Tuesday.
Jump onto Kickstarter, have a look at Kickstarter and go to 10 Wickets by Seabrook Studios. You can actually go in and be notified of the launch if you do happen to listen to this before the 20th. Support Australian games, support cricket, and support the Dice Men supporting all of those things.
Oh, it's great work by a little Aussie studio. He's going to come out batting. He's going to knock it for 6. Oh, my goodness, Tony Gregg, you'll never see anything like it.
So there you go. He's got him, yes. He's played 10 wickets. We really like it. Go on and check it out on Kickstarter from the 20th of June. That's 10 wickets.
Dun, dun, dun. Dun, 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 dun. Dun, dun, dun.
Bump, 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 bump.
Dun, 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 dun.
The Dice Man cometh!
Yeah, welcome back to the Dice Men Cometh. Now, you've had your little fix of the little drip feed of what BorderCon was all about, but now it's time to go deep and dark and delve for all the goodness. So, Leon, I believe you have some questions that you would like to ask us.
I do. I have some questions burning on my little notepad on my phone right here. And we're not going to start off all in a positive place. We're going to start off in the negative so we can get it out of the way early. What was your dog of the con? What was the game that sadly didn't hit for you? And I must say, this con, I'm glad to say that it was not easy to think of one of these because nearly everything I played either was exactly what I expected it to be, which was cool, which is why I was playing it, or exceeded that. But Garthy boy, what would you say was your dog of the con? What was the game that really didn't click for you?
Hand-to-hand wombat, Mark.
Yes!
No, look, I've got to go in a bit more detail than that. Hand-to-hand wombat, designed by the same people as Exploding Kittens and presumably Unstable Unicorns and all that kind of thing.
But let's be fair, they are games.
Correct.
Regardless of the fact that they're pretty simple and not terribly entertaining, they're still games.
Yes. So the main fact that people know about wombats is that they have square poos.
Yes.
That's kind of the thing. And that's great. For some reason, there is a game, it's called Hand-to-Hand Wombat. It's basically a game that you play blindfolded and try and stack things up from the largest piece to the smallest piece in a pyramid, and there's always a trader who's trying to stuff things up. It's dumb. Yeah. It's a whole bunch of dumb. It's thankfully a very cheap game to play. Do want to say thank you to Charles for providing it to us.
Well, it was entertaining,
because
not necessarily in the way it was meant to be.
Well, yes, and I think with the right, very young group of people,
yeah, of course,
it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah,
it's kind of dumb, and then when I say kind of dumb, I mean really dumb. But that's it's hard to say that's my dog of the con because it definitely wasn't expecting much, but it was bad.
Yeah, Marky boy.
So, I have to preface this
no.
with...
What's he doing?
This game is not a dog
Uh-oh.
in any way, shape or form.
Oh, we're getting cancelled.
The dogs, though,
What's he doing?
are those... Am I allowed to say the word
No, you're not.
where
Wait till
you
Patreon.
don't know who your father is?
Wait.
Can I say that on these podcasts?
I mean, it's in the dictionary, but so's half the word.
Okay, so those bastards...
There you go.
on the board game barbecue that led me down the garden path of thinking that it'd be an amazing idea to use up many, many hours of my BorderCon experience playing a game called John Company's Second Edition. I was intrigued by it. It's a game about the British East India Company, which at the time, and apparently still today, is the largest company to have ever existed. Obviously, if you measure their wealth back then in today money, in Bitcoin.
Don't measure it in Bitcoin.
No, the value could change quite highly just in this at the time of this discussion. And it's a war game, it's a commerce game, it's a negotiation game, it's like a coin game. It's a crazy roller coaster ride of a game where you are 4 families in control of this company, and internally you are vying for control of the company. And there are all these officers within the country. So you might have the chairman, or you might have the head of military affairs, or the head of shipping, or the trade master, or the president of Bengal affairs. And all these, there's a specific way that all these officers are appointed. And then all the company's money basically has to get divided up. You can't even save any between all the various different officers. Then you spend the money. It might be on doing trade within India. It might be going and putting down a little rebellion in a particular area of India.
So you know, it's not a full review.
No.
Just so you know.
Okay, anyway, there's a lot to it.
Yes, we heard.
There's a lot to this game.
I haven't got.
I think
gathered
there's
that.
maybe 18 steps in a turn. We played the short scenario, which was 5 turns. However, the company did go bankrupt before the end of the 5th turn, which ended the game automatically, even after having been bailed out by the British royal family at the start of the 4th turn, because, hey, we had a deal with them that said the first time we went bankrupt, they'd bail us out. Pity that we then immediately went straight back into bankruptcy. But that all sounds fine. I mean,
Totally fine.
It's a complex game, absolutely.
Well, you're still talking about it.
But
know.
the thing about this
You
game
weren't subtle enough, guys.
is that
Leon has more questions.
I'm the one watching the timer here. The thing about this game is every single decision in the game is a negotiation. It might not involve all 4 players because only 3 of you might be in a particular region.
You would say that, wouldn't you?
But every single decision in the game is a negotiation. Now, in a game like that, there's a couple of different ways it could go. Like, let's say if I was playing a game like that, I might go, hey, Garth, I'm going to do this unless you pay me money not to.
What's your next question, Leon?
Right,
And
next question.
then you're probably going to go, I don't care, Mark. And I go, fine, I'll do it. But some other people might go, well, Garth, what do you want me to do? Leon? And then after you tell me for 5 minutes, they might go, Leon,
Yeah.
what do you want me to do?
I want you to shut up.
And then the other third person, and then they might go, no, I'm not sure about that, Garth. What if I did this? How does that sound to you? And then they might make one decision, which is one of 18 in the round, which is one of 5 turns. They might make that whole process go for half an hour. And then imagine that, rinse and repeat.
I can imagine it
rinse
going
and
for half an
repeat.
hour. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what I want to
How
say
about we
is-
negotiate that I give you a chocolate and then you let Leon ask
what I
you-
want to
answer
say
this one?
is I think that there's an amazing game in there for the right group of people, but I would urge you to make sure that you have people that are prepared to have a conversation, maybe involving a timer, to make sure this game keeps moving along. Now, don't get me wrong.
Timer,
It
novel
was,
idea.
it was
Timer would
lovely.
be
It was
great.
lovely. The group of people I played with were lovely. I've played.
They know when to stop negotiating and stop talking?
I have played games with some of them before, and I will play games with some of them again. But yeah, it was too long.
So was your answer John Company?
It was too long.
Okay, Leon, what was your dog at the con? Okay, thank you.
I know what the dictionary definition of negotiation is. I've just had a thorough explanation of that. I've now forgot where I am and what I'm doing. Board games, that's right. Mine would probably be Future Stop Paris or whatever it was called. It's just something in Right Game. I didn't really understand it. So that's my fault, not the game's fault. So
100% it's your fault.
That's the only way I could say as a dog of the con because I just didn't understand it. That's completely my fault. But everything else I played was great, so that's it. Moving on.
Okay.
Because we've got
Maybe you
no
need
time.
to learn to colour in within the lines.
Yeah, that sounds boring.
Okay.
Okie dokie doke. Now, we've got a few other questions here. How about...
How about you and I just go and do
Okay.
them?
Surprise hit of the con. And tell you what, I'm going to go first, and then Garth and Mark can go last. Surprise of the con. I've got 2 written down here, and I'll talk about them quickly, because it might be on you guys' list as wells's. One of them is the game Challenges, because we kind of ripped into it a little bit, because the fact that it was a Kennerspiel nominated, that's supposed to be for the gamer game people, hardcore gamers, your big Euros that take 5-6 hours, and this game really ain't that. So why it's nominated for that award, we still absolutely can't tell you. However, in terms of the game itself, The problem is that you need a high player count. At 6 or 8, I think this game is actually really fun. I would never touch it or even look at it with less than that many people. So if you have a large gaming group that meet quite often to do things like party games or bigger games, or you run a con, or you have your own gaming group, get your hands on challenges. 6, 7, or 8, good fun, especially around a table you can all move around in. And I was expecting the game to be garbage. So that was a bit of a surprise to me. Still should not be nominated for that award in any shape or form. And the next one is Sagrada, because, as I said before, a game we played several years ago, it was like when it was the hotness, when it first came out, we thought, this is fine, and then never really thought too much about it. But like I said, our good friend Ron, he absolutely loves it. He has all the expansion for it. He put the best modules into this 5-player game that he could, and it just flowed on. And funnily enough, I'd actually won a copy of Sagrada the year before at BorderCon and just never got around to it because it just wasn't top of the pops. And then as we played it, I went, actually, hang on, this is much better than I thought it was. And then I realised, oh, hang on, stop being selfish, Leon. Your wife loves puzzles and shiny stuff. She'd probably really like this.
Yep.
So I got my hands on a couple of select expansions that Ron recommended, and I'm now going to play it with my wife and a couple of friends, I believe, this weekend.
Lovely.
So that was excellent. Garth.
So for me, being told that you could count and then write 1 to 100 sounds like homework. But I was very surprised at how much fun Gimme That was, which is a potato-based roll and write. I'm not going to go into too many details. I feel like we might talk about it at some point later on, and I don't want to use up all your time, Mark.
It's insane.
But the actual game that was a real surprise to me was Autobahn. Autobahn, now, it looks like a game that I like. It's got lots of pieces, but it's basically you are building the infrastructure in Germany, basically over the they're not 4 decades, they're sort of, they're periods of time, and the last one is the wall comes down and you've got access into West Germany. So you're basically constructing highways, you're moving freight around them, you've got little truck meeples that put little goods on the back of them, but in order for that to happen, you need to have built the highways. So it's really quite interesting. Leon.
Hello.
It's advanced Ticket to Ride.
And you would know all about that, Garth,
do
because
know
that's
all
the
about
game
it.
that I could say on a public episode that Garth Gray of the Dice Men Cometh has played Ticket to Ride, and the Europe version at that.
Yeah, whatever.
And I've
There's
still
no
never
evidence.
played Race for the Galaxy, and I never will. Mark, I'm terrified to say that you may give your answer.
Thank you, Leon.
And we'll see how we go.
Look, I don't want to confine myself to one game.
Oh, good.
But
Go
what I
for
want to
5.
talk about, my surprise hit, is not one game, but I'm going to say a group of games. Trick-taking games, particularly playing them with our friend Craig Summerton.
The king of trick.
I loved Texas Showdown, but the one I particularly want to call out is Craig's game. I think we're going to see a lot more of this game, Mesozoic Mayhem
Got a copy over there.
with dinosaurs, where you've got, I think, was it 5 or 6 suits of dinosaurs? But the clever thing is there are a different number of cards in each suits. Look,
Different number of cards in each.
Yeah. I won't explain it anymore. It is on Board Game Geek, so you can go and check it out. I'm really hoping this is going to go somewhere because I think it's quite a unique concept. I really enjoyed it, but Craig does love his trick-taking games. He took us through a few of them. Our friend Aos also loves those sort of games. And I just, I love the crew too, but I just had a ball playing all those little trick-taking games.
Look, I'll just jump in there because you're spot on. The other one that I thought was really interesting was My Favourite Things. Now, Leon, I don't know if you had a chance to
No,
play
I saw
that.
what it was, though, and it does seem like a cool idea.
Yeah, so it's a trick-taking game where the first part of it is that each player is creating a topic that another player then needs to essentially create the suit and the order. So, Mark, I might go to you on these sort of erasable cards. I want you to list your 5... So one of the ones I did was your 5 favourite billionaires.
Yeah.
So, Mark's then got to list his 5 favourite billionaires from 5 being the favourite billionaire, which would be his highest ranked card, down to, and that being a 5, down to his 0 card, which is his least favourite billionaire. Mark, who is your favourite billionaire and why?
Well, I didn't do that one. I had food cuisine.
I know you
types,
did.
I think. But yes,
You got off lightly. So that was
I
really
like any
interesting
of them.
because then you were playing these cards.
Yeah.
Where you could see the name of whatever the answer was, but you didn't know whether they were the least or the most or somewhere in between. So it was quite an interesting concept.
Yeah, and you played the card, and then when everyone had played cards of that trick, then you basically sort of looked underneath and saw what number was on there, and then you were right or wrong. There was a little twist to how the tricks played out.
And you basically got to learn more about your fellow players, because Leon, I might say, well, what's your favourite soft drinks, and you're listing your soft drinks from the most favourite to the least favourite. So I get to know that Leon's favourite soft drink is Chocky Milk or something.
Yes, soft drink, the Chocky Milk soft drink. Mad for it. Anyway, just a quick note I'm going to throw in there about Mesozoic Mayhem. There was a few very much laugh out loud moments, mainly the 2 times I got screwed in the last card that was drawn out of the points I could have got. But we need to mention that we normally talk about the games that are played the most at the con. There was a lot of Scout because it had finally come out. But I'd say the game of the con was probably Cat in a Box.
Yeah.
That game was everywhere
Yes.
on several tables. And Mesozoic Mayhem, very similar game in style to Cat in a Box, except it's not insanely overproduced. And Cat in a Box is a fine game. I own it. I think it's an enjoyable game. Mesozoic Mayhem was the same type of feel of that game in, like, was it 18 cards or something?
18 or 21
Created
cards.
by a mate of ours, Craig. So, I hope he could maybe find a publisher for it. That would be awesome.
All right, come on, Leon. Time's wasting here.
Oh, sorry, Mark. I didn't realise I was wasting your time. Okie doke. So we will save honourable mentions and game of the con till last. So now we'll go with experience. So not necessarily your favourite game of the con, but your favourite gaming experience of the con. And yes, we will give it a crack to go with Mark first.
All right, so my favourite experiences, so many to choose from. I'm going to whip through them now. So, Board Game Barbecue, Mike turning up with his party games and having... So now we've got someone to rival AOS with their selection of short little party games. It was fantastic. The Game of Obsession with Leon, Liz and James teaching us, where we put on the voices, had a great time. And The Expert Teach of Darwin by Norkel, and I will say expertly won by Leon.
Smashed it.
There you go.
Yeah. Well done, Garth.
Okay. Look, I've been wanting to play Frostpunk for a long time.
You should buy it. You should buy games, Garth.
Okay. I bought one the other day. That once we got our head around it, and look, the fact that we had organised this with Neil, the organiser and part of the committee on BorderCon, and then not surprisingly, he just wasn't able to commit. He had a lot of things. He was organising stuff for 200 people. So we basically got a copy of the board game that had been taken out of Shrink, and that was it.
Yes.
So to go from that, and thank you very much, Leon, for all the punching of that game that you did do.
Yes, which I did half on painkillers while
and all
Becca
of
Scott,
that-
on the other hand.
all of that sleeping that you did with Becca Scott while you were learning the game.
And we didn't even talk about the box for Frostpunk.
That's right.
One of the worst boxes in modern board gaming history. Amazing.
So
what
look,
they
the
had.
first couple of hours of Monday morning figuring out how the hell to play this game was not the easiest. However, the couple of rounds that we then got to play, and particularly the second round that we got to play, I really love that. And I think this game has basically taken this war of mine.
Because it's the same designer.
It is the same designer.
and turned it into a game.
And made it even more interesting. So I definitely want to get that, and I definitely want to play that again. It was definitely a highlight.
Yeah.
I just looked through the list. I think I didn't have as heavy a board game sort of experience. I didn't play a lot of the longer games like you two certainly did.
Lucky duck.
Pardon?
I said you're a lucky duck.
But look, I thought Hamster Roll was really quite interesting. Sidereal Confluence was probably the most impressive sort of experience that I personally had. But I also just love spending that time with Lee and Alan around the table playing Grimwald. I thought that was quite interesting because Grimwald is that sort of light to medium Euro-style game that Australia is yet to design.
Yeah.
There's Australia is quite good at those lighter card-based games, but as a designing culture, I think we need to move into those medium weight games, and Grimwald's making that step. So I really enjoyed that.
And as I mentioned earlier, Alan Cheshire we've known for years, and an awesome designer and a great bloke. And Lee we just met for the first time at this. You guys have probably met him at PAX before, I don't bloody know. But straight away I was just like, oh, Lee is our kind of people straight away.
Yeah.
And those two next to each other just chatting away. Like I said, they're both young, they're both smart. We've got a healthy future.
I was going to say, watching the cogs in their brain turn as they back and forth, we'd throw out an idea, they'd poo-poo it, but then they'd like riff off that, and it was a...
Many a note was taken. It was
Yeah.
So mine, apart from obviously meeting all our friends, meeting heaps of our Patreon listeners, your Midnight Skeptics, your Black Rabbits, and, everybody else. I don't need to name you all. You know who we are and we love you. Everyone should go check out our Patreon. Did I mention it?
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's the best work that we do by a country mile. Leon's on every episode. That is value for money. But in terms of gaming highlights, I do have to go with my giant War Room 3 Turns of Chaos, because it is quite literally the entire World War II, where you have allies in other players that are playing different countries across the table, and you're figuring out with them the movement and stuff that you want to do and what you're going to achieve this round. And then you actually do get those cool sticks where you move around pieces around the board, because the board is humongous. And it is one of those giant event games that I've always gone on about. Like Twilight Imperium was one of my favourite games ever. That's a big space epic battle. This is quite literally, the biggest battle this planet has ever seen, sadly, but in terms of the gaming way.
Yet.
Oh, thanks for that, Garth. But in terms of the game mechanics of it, it's actually a really good game, and much like TI, it wasn't complicated at all. It just had a lot of decisions and a lot of things that needed to be done.
Do you want to know about a complicated game?
No, I don't.
And
I don't like complicated games. I like long games. I don't like complicated. So this is a game that I think. It's getting reprinted soon, and I dare to say that I probably will pick up a copy of this, even though it's going to cost me an arm and a leg. And then I've got your giant space event game, and I've got your, Earth-based event game.
All you need's a big table to put them on.
And chances are I will probably only play this game a handful of times in my entire days because of how long it takes. But it's a modular board as well. You can break it down and play a 2-player game that's just the war in the Pacific in like 3 hours if you want. Heaps of scenarios. So awesome. It's really, really interesting. And it's a game to play at a con like that, where it's a bit ruckus, but it's also a little bit quiet. Table in the corner, lots of pieces, lots of fun.
Was this the surprise hit question, or was this the highlight question?
This was the experience.
Oh, okay.
We've done the surprise hit already. That was one of the first ones we did.
Well, look, the one that I missed, though, the experience of having the big game at BorderCon open till late, so more people stayed late. It looks like it's going to be an ongoing
the big
thing.
room?
Big room.
What did I say?
The big game.
I thought you were going to talk about John Company again.
The big game room. Big room open 24 hours. Meant more people stayed late. The room was chockers. And BorderCon has now gone from every night us being the last people to leave the room to us going, getting a bit tired, and you're looking around and there's still probably 50 or 60 people partying hard.
Great.
At 2-3 in the morning, which is awesome.
Yeah, so it's just taking it to 11 for me.
Yeah. It is awesome. So, do we want to do some honourable mentions before we get on to our game of the con?
We've got about 5 minutes.
Oh, my God. So, honourable mentions.
You do remember that Mark talked about John Company
I do remember.
Quite a long time.
I've got a few to mention here. The Shiv Up pop-up game was cool. Playing Grimwald was also cool. Obsession, the theme is one of the least interesting themes to me by a mile. The reason why Garth didn't play the game. But the actual game itself was really cool. The design of the game is really plain. It actually almost looks like Food Chain Magnate on the table. Doesn't look good. A deluxe version of this game with that gameplay, I think will do absolute gangbusters. That's my notable mentions. Garth?
Sidereal Confluence. I've wanted to play it for years and years and years. I loved it, and I was not surprised I enjoyed it. The one sort of big problem with it is at a loss by 1 point for somebody.
It doesn't matter if you win or lose.
Yes, it does.
Except when you beat Garth by 1 point, they're the best victories ever.
And Mark, your honourable mention?
Look, the only other thing, I actually really enjoyed Next Station London. I think it's a great little game, and I think we're going to see good things to come from that. And just like Garth mentioned, Frostpunk, I think there's a really great game in there. Just got to get through the clunkiness of it, which always seem to happen with these sort of story-based games. But I'm really keen to give that another crack.
Okay, so Game of the Con. I had 2 this year because straight away I messaged our good friend Charles at LFG-AUS to say, Charles, buy these games for me, please, mate. And they were Darwin's Journey and Amsterdam. So it's one of those two. I find it hard to pick. One of them is a worker placement kind of racing game in your Darwin's Journey. The other one is very much an engine builder in your Amsterdam. It's almost like Furnace Advance, which I think is a very cool idea, and I can't wait for you guys to get your hands on it because I think you'll really like it. I think I'm going to go with Amsterdam just for the fact that it's personal to me, being my wife is Dutch and now my children are also part Dutch. The fact that there is a game based on, the biggest, most popular city in that country, and it's actually awesome. I'll be able to teach that to my kids in years to come, and, their grandmother will be able to tell them about that city, same as I can tell them about the city that we've been to, so I think that is amazing. And, just quickly, it's a Queen game. I looked on their website to buy it. The shipping was going to be nearly $200 USD to get that one game here. I was legitimately about to contact contact some friends in Amsterdam to see if they could buy a copy and send it to me, but I thought I'll ask Charles first, and he's come through like a champ, like he always does. Garth, game.
Look, I thought about, is it going to be Frostpunk because I just love the idea so much, or is it going to be Sidereal Confluence because I've finally played the game that I wanted to play for so long?
Yeah.
And Sidereal Confluence is won it for me.
Yeah.
It's a game
No,
that
you came second.
Far out. It's a game I'll never own because it needs to be a minimum of 6 players and up to 9 players, and it's just not going to get played enough. No. But
we'll just play Chinatown instead.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
But the experience was fantastic. This took up more table space than probably any other game that we played, including Frostpunk, because we had 6 people around the table, each of us with 20 or 30 face-up cards in front of us, with half a dozen different types of resources, with a central tableau, and thankfully, every turn, which was all pure negotiation between 6 of us, did not extend and drag. And essentially, we were in a position every single turn to go, we're done now? We're all done? Yep, we're done. Cool, let's move on. Sounds like John Company could maybe take a leaf or 2 out of Sidereal Confluence's book.
Funny you should say that, Garth, because my highlight was a little game called Sidereal Confluence. So won by 1 point. But for me, like the difference between those 2 negotiation games is a world apart, because this is a game where if you don't negotiate, you are stuck with a bunch of stuff that is totally useless to you. So you were forced to negotiate, even make decisions at a disadvantage because it was worth nothing to you if you didn't.
There's
and I
no benefit
love
to
that.
keeping stuff.
And I think that's why it's not Chinatown, because it's not how clever can I be with numbers and work out where I can trade this and still be screwing someone over, but they don't quite realise it. It's because you have to get rid of it. I loved it. And I'd be scared to play it at higher than 6, though, because it did take a long time. But it was fascinating, and I'm so glad we got it to the table.
So that is just a quick sample of the stuff that we played at BorderCon. As you will know if you've been listening to the show before, we will be talking about these games for months and months, and including the other stuff that we've got going on.
I just want to make a mention really, really quickly that there were so many more new faces at this BorderCon, and I loved it. Normally we go there with knowing 50, 60, 70% of the people, if not more. I certainly felt like I knew a large cohort, but there were so many new faces, and I think that there's this new excitement, there's this new enthusiasm. Scout, yes, got a huge amount of table presence, but there's so much excitement around that because a lot of these gamers hadn't seen a game like this before, and that was really exciting.
Yeah, and a lot of those people were just friends of people that couldn't make it this year, so it's not like those people have gone away. We've just brought more people into the hobby. So we're going to be talking about this for months to come, as we always do. So thank you, everybody, for listening. A shout out that we'll be announcing on our social medias. We probably might have done it already. The winner of our
Everybody Wins competition.
Yes.
Our book competition.
Yes, which was awesome, and we've got a few of those going around the world, which should be very, very, very interesting.
And excitingly coming up when Cephalofair have their big launch of the Gloomhaven RPG, we're going to be doing a Cephalofair competition coming up soon, so keep your ears open for that one.
Yes, and also, just another quick one, we'll mention it quite closer to the date, but anybody in Bendigo in Australia, those guys are going to get their own little con as well in October, the Big Weekend, who is run by a lovely bloke called Ben, who was the one who taught me Amsterdam.
There you go.
So check out the Big Weekend on all the socials, and we'll talk about that more in the future.
Hopefully they have a Bendigo edition of Monopoly there.
Yeah, it would be cool.
Anyway, we've run out of time as usual. So much gaming in those 4.5 days of BorderCon. It was amazing again. Look, people have been saying, will you guys stop talking about BorderCon? Because we'll never get tickets, but we've been raving about it now for me,
nearly
10 years ago. 2013 was my first BorderCon. I love it so much. We've already booked our accommodation for next year.
I've booked my annual leave.
Already put leave in the calendar. It's just...
I've got my meds.
Attend. Look, I know it's a lot of fuss for people who haven't been to get those tickets. They do go quickly, but give it a crack. And remember, we'll have another competition next year where we're giving away 2 tickets. I'm pretty sure.
We will.
And if you love hearing all 3 Dice Men at the room at the same time, you know what you should do? You should sign up to our Patreon. Did I mention it? For about a dozen of the best episodes we've ever done so far on there, and more to come, plus more competitions and all the funsies. Please get on there because we love you.
That's been episode 358 of the Dice Men Cometh. We'll be talking to you soon, but until then, bye.
Bye. Oh yeah.
You've been listening to another episode of The Dice Men Cometh, proudly brought to you by LFG Australia. Be sure to check out lfg-oz.com.au for all the details of their online and physical retail store. You can find us at dicemencometh.com or on Instagram, Facebook or Twitter. And don't forget, you can support us on Patreon too. Thanks for listening.